Alright guys, so today we have an issue with a car, and a car simply wouldn't start. As you can see, it just doesn't start. I don't want to kill a battery. I scanned my car with my laptop and the yak box showed that fuel pressure is either too low or too high. When you get that kind of fault, is most certainly one thing in mind, which is a airlock somewhere in the fuel system. So what I have done, I have filled up my tank because my tank was running low, and well, to be honest, most of the time why it happens is because you run your tank to very little, to last drops of fuel, and then the air builds up in your fuel lines and it just airlocks. But I'm not sure if that's the case anyway. Just in case, I fueled up my car with another 15 liter of diesel, and what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna try to go through different parts of fuel lines, try to release any air is there, and try to work it out where it could be any fuel leak, where could it be any problem really. I want to check if a fuel is actually coming into my fuel filter, if it is enough fuel coming into my fuel filter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prime it here, see if it comes like it should. And to be fair, it looks like the more than enough fuel is coming through my fuel supply into my fuel filter. Everything looks all right, so I'm doing that now, but it looks like it primes nicely. Fuel is coming through. I don't see any problems with that. If you run your car to very low fuel, you might want to prime it quite a bit to get rid of any air in the fuel lines. Once you fuel up your car, make sure up to here, up to a fuel filter, it comes through nicely and it just is no air left in them fuel lines. To be honest, I don't think I'm gonna need to do that. I can see that it's doing what it should do. It's priming up nicely, so that is all fine. So I'm gonna put this back in a place. Okay, we're gonna carry on with the next one. Alright, so as you could see, fuel comes to my fuel filter. Right, so where are we going from there next? I see some little air bubbles on this hose here. It goes through underneath the air intake manifold, and then it goes to my fuel pump. Is my fuel pump supply. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna disconnect this from fuel pump, and I'm gonna prime my little primer, see if that's gonna work to air that one up a little bit, because there might be too much air in the air filter. So when I disconnect my fuel supply here, let's have a look. I have to press the two little clips from both sides, and then you can just literally lift this up. I'm gonna lift this up even more, like this. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna put it in here and try to prime it. And what do I see? The fuel goes through nicely, the way it should. It goes back into my bottle. So the fuel, sufficient amount of fuel, is actually reaching up my fuel pump. So that's one thing makes this interesting. Okay, so that is going through and everything seems to be fine. Certain tiny little bubbles of air is always going to be in this visible fuel line. That's not an issue. Right, so I think we're gonna do now is we're gonna put that fuel line back on to the fuel pump. So I just clipped my fuel supply back to my fuel pump, and it seemed to be okay. I have a bit of air in that pipe, but I don't think that could cause my car not to start. I'm just gonna tidy up everywhere. What I'm doing with the diesel, I bump it out. I literally pour it back into my big jerry can so that I could fill it back into my fuel tank. Okay, right, so we're gonna carry on, see what next. Right, so the next thing I want to do is I'm gonna undo these fuel supply things tiny little bit on each injector. Just undo them tiny little bit and see what's gonna happen when I try to start the car. I'm gonna put a tiny bit of paper under each one of them. What should happen, the fuel should start coming through the actual injector supply things. It shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so we undone those 17 nuts from the fuel supply to injectors. I'm gonna try to start a little bit, turn it over a little bit, see what's happening. And I can see that there is a little bit of fuel starting to come out, but nowhere near the sufficient amount, which should be. So I turn it over again. Okay, let's have a look again. I see more fuel starting to come out. Okay, that looks like a good sign. So I'm gonna try to do these little bad boys up. Right, so as you know, my car wasn't starting right. I've checked through here, the fuel was coming. I've checked all the way down to the fuel pump. It was fuel going into a fuel pump. Then I have undone these 4 17 nuts. I've started the car, tried to start the car, make sure the fuel is going through them into my injectors. Yeah, and then sometimes it's also good to check your return pipes, make sure they're alright. But I've done these up. In the first, they didn't give me enough fuel through the fuel supply. Then I keep turning a car over, and eventually gave me enough fuel supply through my fuel supply pipes going from railway to injectors. So now I'm quite confident that if I turn this car over, it should fire up and it should start, because I don't believe there is any more airlocks left in it. So let's go here and have a look. Right, and it does start, as you can see. So if you enjoy this simple airlock removal video, I hope you're gonna subscribe my channel and like this video if you want. And yeah, I'm gonna be seeing you in the next video, and there's many more to come.